contrast, we have cluster sampling. And cluster sampling can provide samples that are quite useful and that match up with our hope that we get a microcosm of our universe. However, this only holds under specific conditions. What's a cluster sample to begin with? Instead of surveying the entire population, we rely on just a chunk of cases that we can access relatively easily, and that's not obviously untypical for the population. From that chunk, we either conduct a full survey or a random sample, or draw a random sample. We don't monitor the resulting composition of the sample, but prescribe the way the sampled units are accessed. And we don't necessarily only have to have one chunk of cases, we can define several chunks of cases. Example, you want to know how open-minded towards nuclear power students in Norway are. So that would be your population, students in Norway. But instead of surveying the entirety of students enrolled at universities in Norway, you survey all students at NTNU. You could also say all students at NTNU and University in Oslo, right? Then you have two clusters instead of one. NTNU would be the cluster. The dangers here are that this just works well as long as the clusters are not systematically associated with the constructs of interest. But clusters are quite likely to be systematically associated with some cluster constructs of interest in many cases. If we think of the NTNU example, students at NTNU may be systematically more technology friendly than students at, for example, Nord University, and this then affects their views on nuclear energy. So if we have neither an unobserved variable that creates bias or a cluster that creates bias, we have quite a good correspondence between our green cluster sample and the purple population. The distribution and the means align very well. However, as soon as we have a bias in the clusters inherently, then this takes effect and leads to bias. That would be that we survey a technology-friendly NTNU sample rather than a sample of all students in Norway, and the fear of nuclear power, for instance, would be systematically lower in that NTNU sample relative to the population. And in practice, we don't know the purple distribution, and we would mistakenly think the green one is correct if we have a cluster sample that is biased.